Okay, so today we're going to go over the Link Electronics PCE 845 closed caption encoder for broadcast television, and we're going to just kind of go over some of its main features and its connections, and we're later going to explain how to use it for live captioning and post-production captioning. Now, the first and foremost, you have your on and off switch. You have the video presence, RS-22 data light. We'll explain how to use those later when it's connected to devices. We have a test button and a bypass button. And these indicators, the encode field 1 and field 2, these actually show you when you're actually sending data to these particular fields on the television. Now let's look at the back of this guy and go over some of the connections. Now, first and foremost, you're going to see a lot of connections, and they're all BNC. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they use an adapter to connect the BNC because they only have RCA's cables going into their television set. So usually you'll have this guy, which is a BNC to RCA adapter, and then you can just plug in RCA cables into this guy. RCA cables, if you're not familiar with them, they look just like this. So to connect with this guy, it's a video RCA connector, to one of these guys, you have to use this adapter. You basically plug this in that way, and then you can interface with these adapters, these connections in the back of your Link encoder. Now let's explain what some of these are. First and foremost, you have your NTSC inputs. Okay, so whatever you're going to close caption, you're going to first plug it into this. This sends a signal into the encoder. So say if I'm plugging in an RCA cable, I would plug in this adapter and then plug in my RCA cable from my VCR or video camera. This actually sends a video signal into the encoder. And then I'm going to go back out of the encoder, out of these two guys right here, the encoder outputs or the decoder outputs. Now there's a big difference between one and the other. First and foremost, you can plug in adapters to either one of them, so that's the same. But the differences are that the encoder sends out closed caption data to your TV. Closed caption data means that you can turn the text on and off using your television remote control. The decoder, however, sends the actual open captions. So that means you can't turn off the text on your screen, on your television screen. They're always on. So decoder applications for that usually include to go into monitors that don't have a closed caption decoder, like a projector, for example, which are not required to have a closed caption decoder. But the encoder is the most typical one. So we would plug this guy in, plug in another RCA, or you can plug in a BNC if you have one that goes to your television set. The television set, if you use this guy, has to have closed captions turned on. Later on we'll discuss about that. The other thing that's really important when you plug in the NTSC input is that you have to have one of these plugged in to get the best possible quality. This guy is called Video Terminator. Okay, you can get these from Radio Shack. And what this does is you can plug this guy in and it terminates a signal, which gives it a better video picture, and it doesn't have any interference in your chain. There's other connections here that include inputs for component video and so forth. But today we're going to discuss the composite video input. It's important that you have this switch set to NTSC and not SVHS, which will then switch to this adapter. So in this case, if you're using these guys, make sure that NTSC is selected. Another really important input here is called the RS-232 input. Now this guy is the one we're actually going to plug into the computer. The RS-232 actually plugs into a PC or a Mac that has a closed caption program on it. Now then the PC closed caption software will then send captions right out to this guy, and then the closed caption encoder, this guy, the Link Electronics, will then send those those commands out to your video screen. And that's basically how the link is set up. Okay, in this next video we're actually going to hook up the closed caption encoder, and let me show you first. The first thing we want to do is we got to give it a video signal. So this video signal can come from a camera, or in this case it's coming from a DVD that we need to caption. So I'm just plugging the video into the NTSC input, and then we're going to have video going out to your television set. This is the video going out, and in this case we're going to go to the decoder. And you notice that if I select that, you can look on the television set that it's actually getting the signal from the DVD player. So that means that the video is looping through the closed caption encoder, and all we got to do is insert captions in between the video signal. Okay, the next step is we actually have to hook it up to the computer. There's a couple of ways to do that. Okay, we can go directly to the computer by using this guy, a serial cable. Okay, and we plug it into computer, and we screw it in nice and tight. Make sure it's working right. Okay, and then we have to hook the other end up to the computer, and the other end looks identical, okay, to that end. But in certain cases you're using, say you're using a laptop that doesn't have a serial port on the back of the computer. So what you can do is you can use an adapter, and this is a serial to USB adapter. Okay, and basically if you just download some drivers from our CPC website, you can use this guy to actually convert the USB ports on your computer to serial ports. So that's basically how you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this up to the back of the computer, and then we're ready to add captions to your video show. Okay, in this little segment we're going to talk about how to test to make sure that the link encoder is actually sending captions out to the TV. Okay, and the way you do that is by pressing this test button once you have everything hooked up. So if I press test, you'll notice that on the TV you'll actually get this message coming directly from the link encoder. So that means that's good. That means that there's making a connection and that you have it hooked up correctly. Now let's say you have it hooked up. In this case I have it hooked up to the encoder outputs on the back of the link encoder. So let's say I switch it to the decoder. That means I'm going to decode the captions in the link encoder out to the TV. So let's hit this test again. And notice that they're double. There's literally one behind the other. That's because the link encoder is sending captions and the TV is also decoding the captions. So you have to make sure that you have one or the other, otherwise you'll get doubling like that. So in this case, let's say if I go into my TV menu, and I go into menu, and I go to closed caption, and I basically select under captioning, I go to, to mod caption, and just hit off, right? Then the link encoder's decoder is going to work, and the TV is going to be disabled. So watch what happens now. Notice that it doesn't double up anymore. So that means in this case the decoding of the captions is happening in the link encoder and not on the TV. So now let's switch it back to encoder. Notice nothing happens. So those two buttons on the back of the link encoder are really important. If I want something to happen now, I switch it to video adjust, closed caption, caption. I'm going to press test one more time. And now you have it. There you go. So it's really vital to know which one of these are you going to have to set. Okay, encoder is the standard caption, decoder is if you want the link encoder to actually do the decoding. So make sure you select the right one before you do your project. Okay, so now that we've hooked up the link encoder to our computer via serial to USB adapter, we have to find out what COM port the computer has assigned to the link encoder connection. So the way to do that is you right click on my computer over here, right click on it. Here's my computer, right click. go to Properties, go to Hardware, and then select your device manager. I hit the device manager, and if you look close, there is a thing that says ports. Okay? And if you open that, you'll see that USB to serial is assigned to COM port number 6. So that's really important. You always want to check that before you go any further. But now that we know that it's in COM port 6, we can open the CaptionMaker software. In this case, we're running in Windows XP, we're running CPC 500. And then what we want to do is configure the link encoder settings. We do that by going to Caption, Device, and under the device we want to select the link 845, which is the one we have hooked up. Next, we want to select Configure and make sure that COM port 6 is selected. In this case it is. We hit OK. We hit OK again to get out of the caption device window. And then we want to make sure that we go to Caption Initialize Device. Go to Caption Initialize Device. Okay. The next step is just to type something in your computer. In this case, I'm gonna and then make sure that it's being sent to the TV. Notice if I type again, to the TV. And there you go, and that's how you work CPC 500 connected to the link encoder.
Now that we have CPC 500 working, where you can just type in something like so and have it appear on your monitor, we're going to show you about another alternative. Now we do recommend that using a stenographer would be the most accurate way of doing any live captioning. But if you can't afford a stenographer or you wanted to use a different method, we would recommend that you use a voice recognition software. So I'm going to go over briefly how to set up the Dragon Naturally Speaking software, but you can use any other voice recognition software out there. First, you want to make sure that you've got a headset microphone. The one I'm using looks like so. Nothing fancy about it. It's got a USB connection, plugs into my computer, and once you install the software, it's going to prompt you for some training. And I did it briefly, but I wanted to go over it a little bit more. So I'm going back into the software, and then I'm going to go over the training again. And I hit go. Welcome to general training. Training is about to begin. And then they give you some options for what kind of reading you would want to do. I'm just going to go with the sales letter, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it and then show you what you need to do to install the Dragon Naturally Speaking so it works with our CPC software. So real briefly, let's try it. Sales letters. Dear Bill, I've given a great deal of thought to what you said about buying an off-the-shelf performance appraisal training system. I'm more convinced than ever, however, that a customized system would be particularly effective for your company for the following reasons. Now that I'm done with training, I'm ready to get everything set up on my CPC 500 to work with Dragon Naturally Speaking. One thing I wanted to mention is that this software does not work on Windows Vista. I'm referring to the Dragon Naturally Speaking. It doesn't work well with our software in Vista. Windows XP is what we recommend that you run on your PC for optimized performance. Now, once you've installed Dragon Naturally Speaking, I would recommend you go to our website at cpcweb.com. And let's see, there you go. Now, you're going to go over to the Downloads tab, located right there, and then we have some support files, and this is where I want you to click on. And as you can see, this one's called Naturally Speaking right here, and this is the one that you want to download on your system so it works with our software as well. Now I've turned off the microphone so it doesn't interrupt us, but once you do get everything trained for the Dragon Naturally Speaking, you can go into our software, and I'm going to turn the microphone back on here. This is a test to see how Dragon Naturally Speaking works with CPC 500. And as I'm saying it, it's appearing on my monitor. So everything that I say is going to be sent to my television monitor. So that's it in a nutshell. That's how you use Dragon Naturally Speaking and set up your live system so you can do live captioning, CPC 500, Dragon Naturally Speaking, and the link encoder. Thank you.